We got to see all three in action for the first time, but which of the presidential candidates got a boost from last night's debate, and how are the campaigns taking shape? Joining me are Fine Gael Minister of State Colm Brophy, Social Democrat TD Gary Gannon, Fianna Fáil Minister of State Mary Butler, and Fionnan Sheahan, Ireland editor with the Irish Independent. You can send us your comments, simply scan the QR code or contact us via the WhatsApp number. Fionnan, were you blown away by the almost uncontainable passion of the candidates in studio last night?
Yeah, I know Ray people found it boring. I found it quite fascinating, actually, to watch the three candidates make their presentation. And it was quite intriguing because if you were looking at it from the perspective of, also, how are these people going to act in office? What way are they going to comport themselves? What way are they going to represent people? What way are they going to act out the role of president? We did get a good insight into that last night, and we were left with a fairly clear choice between one candidate on one side and two candidates on the other. And between Heather Humphreys and Jim Gavin, you have that choice between the experienced minister or the celebrity candidate, neither of whom are really showing any great appetite to be bashing the table and taking on the government on this, that or the other, largely speaking, going along with government policy. And then I thought there was a clear choice then with Catherine Connolly. Whether you agree with that or not, that's what the voters have to decide. But she did pose fundamental questions about the role of the president. So in terms of her articulation of her views on foreign policy, taking it that she will continue to have these views and express these views then when she becomes president, it does pose questions. When we host the EU presidency next year and we have EU summits in Dublin, we have meetings of the European political community, are we going to have a head of state who is going to be telling these European leaders that they shouldn't be harming up and that they should be engaging in diplomacy with Russia? Are we going to have a president who's going to Northern Ireland and is going to tell unionists, well, I'd like to see a United Ireland in the next 7 years, which presumably means there's going to have to be a border poll within the next 5 or so.
But they're all United Ireland candidates. They all describe themselves as United Ireland candidates.
There was one candidate who specified a time frame, though. The other two didn't. And then there is that question about how the president represents Ireland abroad, not just in terms of state visits, but also on trade missions. So is whoever the Minister for Foreign Affairs at the time going to basically be saying, well, I'm not sure that we want the president coming on a trade mission to this country because he had some certain views about them, maybe better to divert somewhere else. So I thought there was that clear dichotomy there. What sort of president do you want? And in that regard, there is a clear choice here.
Was there anything about their answers or their positions on particular topics that surprised you last night?
I thought that the fact that the two, we'll call them government party candidates, did not interject, did not take on Catherine Connolly's worldview, to me was quite surprising. If you want to compare what's happening in Germany with the 1930s, well, then that's fine. But there is an alternative argument that you could say there is a role reversal here, because in this case, Germany and the rest of Western Europe has been in the Chamberlain mode of being asleep, while Russia has been becoming increasingly hostile towards the Western European, shall we say, European Union way of life. And I was quite surprised that neither of the other two candidates really got stuck in on that topic. Largely speaking, they all agree housing is a problem, just on various different degrees. On Gaza, they were all of the one mind, Catherine Connolly believing that the government isn't going far enough. The government parties will argue, well, look, we're going further than most other countries. So no, I thought the kind of the relative quietness of Heather Humphreys and Jim Gavin at parts of the debate was a bit of a surprise. Maybe that was a deliberate tactic on their part. They wanted to hold back and say they were safe. But it was certainly a debate that was dominated by Catherine Connolly, and she probably comes away happiest in terms of energising her base.
Colm, were you surprised that Heather didn't interject more?
No, I mean, I think when you have a first debate in any election, and you know there are going to be multiple debates within it, it's one where I think the candidates come in and they want to give people a flavour of who they are and who they are as a person, how they, will work if they were to assume the office that they're asking you to elect them to. And I think what we saw with Heather was that very inclusive approach, that willingness to state who she is, how her life experience, whether it was the credit union, whether work as a minister.
So inclusive that she wasn't willing to say that she disagrees with Catherine Connolly.
Rather than a style of a type of going at it and picking up. I think that'll probably come in later engagements. I think that'll probably come as you have. I think there's at least 3 debates in a head-to-head format, and I think you'll see that more. But I think from your perspective,
let's be honest,
as a debate,
let's be honest. That's an acknowledgement that she should have interjected more.
No,
I mean, if you're saying now, don't worry, she's going to do it the next time and the time after that.
I'm saying that I think in a first debate, it's really important that candidates get a chance to introduce themselves and show the type of person they are. And I think they did that last night.
Gary, were you surprised, or have you any concerns that Catherine Connolly is standing over those comments that Fionnan raised, that Heather Humphreys didn't interject on?
No, I'm not worried about Heather Humphreys interjecting or not, but I suppose for me, I'm somebody that's watched Catherine closely for the last 5-6 years in the Dáil. I think most of us will pay attention when she speaks because she's a very thoughtful person. She's a very considered person. She doesn't speak in sound bites. She never will. That's one of the reasons why a lot of us will admire her. In terms of the comparisons Catherine was making, I thought last night she broadened out the comparison a little bit more. But am I wrong to say that we live in a world now of rising authoritarianism? We see greater protectionism. We see strong men both in Eastern Europe and Hungary, in the US. Do we not see the European Union about to spend 800 billion on arms and weapons at the point where we're already outspending Russia by 3-1 in terms of arms? And I think in terms of a space where somebody can actually bring thought, considered analysis to that, have an opinion that has depth to it. I welcome that in a candidate.
But she didn't say any of that. She made a comparison between Germany today and Germany of the 1930s.
So at the UCD event that we were talking, at the UCD event I wasn't at, but I did read the reports of it, she referenced the fact that she picked out Germany as one particular country. But Germany is part of a wider European Union, and the context in which we are spending a hell of a lot more on arms across the European Union.
Yeah, but given the fact that there's so many other European member states, the point is the point not that it's a little tone deaf to compare the Germans to the Nazis.
So that wasn't the full sense of what Catherine was saying. But in terms of what historians are saying, sociologists are saying, there are comparisons between what we are seeing now and what people witnessed in the 1930s. There's no escaping that.
But does she not have it the wrong way around? The comparison is that it's Russia who are arming themselves with their eye on territory that is their neighbour's territory.
Catherine absolutely said that. Catherine has condemned Russia unequivocally. She has said that on numerous occasions. Every press conference I see her speaking at, last night she condemned Russia unequivocally. But there is also go beyond that.
Yeah, but she didn't compare him to the Nazis. She stood over that comparison.
So in terms of the comments that I hear Catherine talking about last night was in the broader context of what the 1930s looked like and the similarities with today. That is just a historical fact. And I think someone actually bringing thought to it. I want the candidate who will be considered in our analysis. I do not want somebody who speaks in sound bites. I want somebody who can actually stand for peace. I watched Catherine being the last county court left the Dáil. I know that she can be diplomatic. She's reined me in on several occasions when she was last county court of the Dáil. She is a person who will understand the constitutionality of the role. She is.
If you don't speak in sound bites, you have to be very careful about what you say. And to be honest, the comparison between a democratically elected government in a modern EU state and Nazi Germany is something that she shouldn't have done. And it's where she shouldn't have gone to. And the fact that she still last night, and we obviously all watched it, that she doesn't seem to understand that comparison is so unacceptable. And why Europe is rearming, because of the fact we have a war on our borders, because of the threat that is there to EU member states, and to compare a country seeking to defend itself and seeking to have the capability to defend itself is very regrettable.
I appreciate that your candidate didn't come in last night, so you're trying to rewrite the narrative. The point Catherine was making was the fact that when you are spending 800 billion on armaments, that is going to reduce other capacity to invest in climate change, to invest in welfare spend. All of that comes with choices. So yes, there's absolute an enemy at the gates, and everybody recognises that. But we're also seeing growing poverty. People, 160 million people in the European Union.
She could have not have used the language of directly comparing modern Germany to the Nazis, and I think that's regrettable.
I think you should look back and have a look at the record.
Is Jim Gavin really a Fianna Fáil candidate? So he said the government and Fianna Fáil have failed on housing policy. There's not enough Gardaí on the streets. He said, what else did he say?
I'm not here to defend the government.
Not here to defend the government. The defence forces have been underfunded, and the numbers of asylum seekers coming to the country in the last few years have been too high.
Well, Jim Gavin...
He sounds like a backbench opposition politician.
Let me answer now. Jim Gavin is not a politician. He has said that very, very clearly. He's only a member of Fianna Fáil in the last month or so because due to his lived experience and what he's achieved in the armed forces, for example, or in the Air Corps, he wasn't entitled to be a member of any political party. That's the first thing. I think Jim did exceptionally well last night. You have to put it into context of what it was. One of the 3 people who were sat here last night will become the 10th President of Ireland. So it was a huge event. Like, you know, you come into a studio at any time, you have lights, you have camera. He had over 650,000 people who watched this debate. And I spoke to Jim Gavin on Sunday at his launch, and he said to me it was nervous. And I thought it was absolutely refreshing that we would have men speaking about their emotions. And I said it's good to be nervous, you know, because it'll focus the mind. And what Jim Gavin brought last night was his lived experience in relation to, as I said, the armed forces, but in relation to his community work, his voluntary work. And I think Jim Gavin came across as very determined, very effective. Anything he has gone
just
about in his life.
Just not very Fianna Fáil.
Well, it's not about being, as I said, it's different. And what was lost, I think, in translation last night is exactly what the President will do when there is a President, a new President of Ireland, the 10th President. And it's a Republican constitutional, role. There's nobody better than Jim Gavin who knows what the Constitution is about. Anybody who works in the armed forces knows what the Constitution is about. And I believe, what we saw last night was somebody who was determined, who was very active, and who was very positive.
Sorry, is that Fianna Fáil policy as well, that nobody, it's the Defence Forces, but that nobody in the Defence Forces, nobody outside the people in the Defence Forces understand the Constitution?
No, what I'm saying to you is
they understand it more than anyone else.
I know for a fact last night that during the debate it strayed into all different areas, military, industrial complex, for example.
Yeah.
Like, I got a text from somebody last night.
Well, do you know why it strayed into those areas? Because we don't know anything about Jim Gavin. And people wanted to know about Jim Gavin. They wanted to know his position on these issues.
But maybe the line of questionings didn't open up that.
Well, I would beg to differ.
Your fault.
But that's
a very brave contribution to make to the host.
The reason we ask those questions is because we don't know anything about him. And what we learned last night from the line of questioning is that he is not ad idem with Fianna Fáil on loads of different issues. He actually is distancing himself from Fianna Fáil.
No, he wasn't distancing himself from Fianna Fáil at all.
But he thinks you're failed. Do you think Fianna Fáil are failures when it comes to housing?
No, I don't think we're failures.
No, well then he's not ad idem, and I assume you're speaking for Fianna Fáil. So then he has absolutely distanced himself from Fianna Fáil on that issue.
He hasn't distanced himself from Fianna Fáil. Fianna Fáil were out canvassing for him
all
over the country the weekend.
We're not failures, we are failures. How are they not contrasting positions?
No, what he said was, because, we can get the transcript back, what he said was, we have more work to do. So Fianna Fáil, the 135,000 houses were built in the last 5 years.
He said a lot more than that.
No,
he didn't just say, we have a lot more work to do.
Well, we have a lot more work to do. We know that, but we also have to factor in the fact that we have the largest population ever in the history of the state. But we also have to factor in that we have 2.8 million people working in the country at the moment. So the policy, my reading of the debate last night was more. It was more like if you were running for a general election as against running for the presidency. Because
Mary,
an awful lot of what was debated was in relation to
do you know what? We could have spent an hour asking them whether they were going to have plain tablecloths or gingham tablecloths at all the gardening parties in the summer.
Disingenuous out of
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you think it's disingenuous.
This is a serious debate. This is a serious time
and they were
in our
serious,
country.
and they were serious issues. And the fact that Jim Gavin distanced himself so abysmally from Fianna Fáil, and you've seen that the only way to defend it is to have a go with the line of questioning.
I don't believe he distanced himself from Fianna Fáil. He's only in the Fianna Fáil party with a short while, but his family have a huge history with Fianna Fáil from his father and his grandparents down in Clare. But at the end of the day, Jim Gavin, we're proud to have Jim Gavin as the Fianna Fáil candidate. We will do our utmost to get Jim Gavin elected. Okay. There's 3.5 weeks
But just very briefly then, for the record, when he says that Fianna Fáil have failed on housing, you think Jim Gavin is wrong on that? When he says there's not enough Gardaí in the streets, people are feeling unsafe, you think he's wrong on that, do you? Do you think when he says Fianna Fáil in government have underfunded the defence forces, do you think he's wrong on that?
He's entitled to his opinion, which everybody.
So yeah, you think he's wrong on all those issues?
No, I never said that.
Okay, so Jim Gavin is wrong. Well, then answer the question.
Do not put words into my mouth.
Well, answer the question.
So the facts are very, very clear. 135,000 houses have been built in the last 5 years by the previous government, and what's been built at the moment.
Yeah, I know. Okay. And you don't accept that Fianna Fáil are failures. Jim Gavin does. So you think he's wrong. Just say it. I'd have the courage to at least acknowledge what you've just said. I think Jim Gavin is wrong.
Do you honestly think that I'm going to turn around and say that the party that I've been a member of for the last 35 years are failures, that the party that I'm the vice president of are failures, that the party I'm the whip of are failures? No, I absolutely will not. We're the largest party in the local government.
The next time you speak to Jim Gavin, are you going to say this to him?
We're the largest party in the Dáil, we're the largest party in the Shannon.
Are you going to say this to Jim Gavin the next time you see him?
Am I going to say which?
Are you going to lay all that out to Jim Gavin the next time you see him? Say, Jim, I heard you. I heard what you had to say about housing. You're wrong. We built 135 houses. We've got housing for all. We are grappling with this problem. We're a success. Are you going to say all that to Jim Gavin?
What I would say to you is that Jim said today, I heard him on the news, that there are learnings from every debate. And this was a massive debate yesterday. This kick-started the whole presidential campaign, in my opinion. And it was a debate that we learned a lot about the three candidates, and some people felt they didn't learn enough about the three candidates. And I have no doubt when Jim Gavin is sitting here again next Monday night in front of you, you'll be able to articulate these questions.
Well, it's Colette Fitzpatrick who's going to be talking to him next Monday.
My apologies.
Colette, maybe we'll just ask him about the role of the presidency. He won't ask about any current affairs issues, and he won't have to distance himself from Fianna Fáil. It'll be grand.
He didn't distance himself from Fianna Fáil. He was opinionated in relation to the Defence Forces, and more funding has been put into the Defence Forces. He was opinionated in relation to housing. What he said was, and I listened and watched intently, he spoke about having a young son and daughter. He's a family man, and he worries maybe they won't be able to afford a house into their 30s. That's an issue that a lot of parents speak about, and that's what we're trying to change. But I don't see Jim Gavin distancing himself. He was out canvassing today with Dr. Martin Daly, for example, and Fianna Fáil will be there to elect Jim Gavin.
Gary, Catherine Connolly and Mary brought it up, the military-industrial complex. She talked about it, I think, 3 or 4 times. She mentioned it. She talked about neoliberalism and neoliberal economic policy. And I wonder whether there's a cohort of people, if you care about those issues, you're already voting for Catherine Connolly. Did she successfully reach beyond those people last night?
Last night? Yeah, I think so. So in terms of the idea of neoliberal politics or military-industrial complex, some of the best politicians are people who are able to stand on a platform and inform people about in terms of what's happening in their lives, where they see things going. I think the idea of Catherine down there and actually speaking to people on the same as if they are intelligent human beings, which they are watching at home on the TV, I think that's refreshing in the candidate. I don't want to see a candidate step in here who's gone to some sort of public affairs school and be told to speak in platitudes. I want a candidate of substance. So yeah, when Catherine speaks her values, she'll do it with all of the intelligence that she brings to the table. People at home really buy into her message. I've also been walking around with Catherine doing a bit of canvassing. She was down in the inner city with me a couple of weeks ago, and when she spoke about the Diamond Project last night in terms of what she's seen in the inner city, that was information she got from real people on the ground in the communities that she's visiting. So yeah, Catherine's capable. She's kind of quite omnivorous in the sense that she can speak to people at whatever level she needs to. And I think she's done that very well.
Did she successfully differentiate herself from the other two candidates when it comes to United Ireland. So she needs Sinn Féin supporters to vote for her. And they're all United Ireland candidates.
Yeah,
they all say they're supportive of a United Ireland.
Anybody going to press? I was watching that question last night, but I expect anybody who's running to be the president of Ireland to understand the actual concept of a united Ireland as laid out in terms of something that we should strive for under the principles of consent.
But she had very little detail. I'll be honest, I couldn't tell the difference after the line of questioning as to how she is any different from Jim Gavin or Heather Humphreys when it comes to United Ireland.
I hope Fianna Fáil are a Republican party in the way they say. They believe in United Ireland. Fine Gael, I presume so.
Absolutely.
But great. That's great to hear. So within that, the space about United Ireland is about how we reimagine the institutions of the state.
But you've got a cohort of voters, a Sinn Féin voters, and not all Sinn Féin voters, but some Sinn Féin voters for whom United Ireland is the issue, the number one issue. And you need them to come out and vote for Catherine Connolly. And why would they? Like, what does she offer in a United Ireland? I put the same question to you, I put to her. What's the offer that's any different from Heather Humphreys or Jim Gavin's offer?
I think somebody that's going to put the work in, somebody actually understands that we need to reimagine the institutions of the state, somebody that understands the need to reach across the agenda, reach across the spirit to talk to people from different communities, understands there may need to be representation for some people in the north in terms of spoiled representation in Parliament. I think somebody is out to have intelligent conversations, understands the fact that population demographics are switching up the north, where in 2028 it's estimated that actually the people who believe in United Ireland will outnumber the people who don't. That's going to be a very significant change that happens within them 7 years. And I want somebody who's thoughtful up there, who's able to understand that.
You want to come in there?
I think that's one of the main strengths that Heather has. I think that Heather has shown quite clearly, and actually with the way she's gaining support from not just Fine Gael, but from independents, from people who are not connected to the party, is that it's that inclusiveness that she wants. It's the recognition that, yes, of course you can want a united Ireland, but you also need to want to have a united people. You want to have united communities. You want to have a situation where you have a president who can go in and both in dealing with issues in Northern Ireland, but also in dealing with issues within our own country, within communities within the Republic of Ireland, as well as communities within Northern Ireland, can actually work to bring people together. And that's a huge strength which Heather has, which she's shown throughout her entire life, including in her political career.
Yeah, they all talk up that game as well. You know what I mean? Jim Gavin and Catherine Connolly
do, but I think when you look at it, and you'd probably say, well, you would expect him to say that, but I think when you look at it, it's one of the real strengths that Heather has naturally, that she actually has an ability to reach out and bring people together. Even at her launch, the willingness of people from a whole range of backgrounds, not connected to Fine Gael, to stand up and endorse her.
By implication, Catherine Connolly and Jim Gavin are more polarising or divisive?
I think what Heather is more inclusive. The others can speak for themselves.
But by implication, they are less inclusive.
I think Heather is a very inclusive candidate. I think that what you need is a candidate who can show that strength.
How is Jim Gavin less inclusive?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the individual skills or strengths.
You just said Heather's more inclusive.
No, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on what I think are the strengths of Heather in that area. The other candidates will do their own reaching out. They'll do their own messaging. They'll do their own points. The people who were watching the debate last night will make their judgment as to who they think is a president that's most interested in representing all our communities, all our people, and wants to do that in the most inclusive way. And that's a hugely important part of the President's role and the area that the President's in. And I let people who watched last night and who'll watch again on Sunday and who'll watch on prime time to make those calls.
We're going to have to leave it there. My thanks to Mary Butler. The others are going to be staying with me as we discuss increasing voluntary returns for asylum seekers. And a reminder of our continuing presidential coverage here. It's also going to include the big interview, a series of one-on-ones with each candidate. The first of those will be with Jim Gavin next Monday at 10 p.m. here on Virgin Media 1.